cruise over the water and find out from Courtney Greenslade about a marathon rescue off Eden on the south coast. Let's check in and say ciao to Marco Bordieri. Come sta? From, of course, the Sydney Underwater Gazette. How are you?
Your Italian is improving by the day. Good morning, Simon.
It's the only 3 words I can say on the radio. The rest would get me arrested, Marco.
Oh, my God.
You know, I was in the water around Bermagui, got a big mouthful as I dived under a wave, and I thought, salt. Why is there salt in the ocean?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And it's interesting that the salt in the water comes from the sky.
What?
Yeah, so the salt is actually brought by the fresh water.
What?
I know it doesn't sound intuitive, but what it happens when it rains, the rain reacts with the carbon dioxide in the air and forms bicarbonate. And when the water hits the rocks, tiny bits of salt and minerals are then washed into lakes, rivers, and eventually into the ocean. And many of these minerals are like iron, zinc, and copper that are used by the ocean life, so they disappear. But sodium and chloride, which are the main ingredients of table salt that you know very well being a foodie, those are not. And because they are left behind, level of salt in the ocean has built up over time. It's a very slow process, but over 4 billion years, it has reached the current level of 3.5% in the ocean.
Wow, but it also comes from geothermal activity.
Yeah, another source of salt in the ocean is the underwater eruptions that release hot magma from underwater cracks in the crust of Earth. And because of also the temperature, it's like when you dissolve sugar into hot coffee, the salt gets dissolved easily into the seawater.
So, Marco, is the salinity the same all over the world?
No, not really. What happens, there is the lowest salinity around the equator and the poles, but especially in enclosed seas like the Mediterranean Sea, it's much saltier because of the high evaporation that leaves the salt behind. And then there are lakes. I think we've all seen some pictures of people floating on the Dead Sea, and that's 10 times more salty than the ocean. That's why there is more push to float.
But then that changes the way the ocean is around the world.
Yeah, because of the different density and the specific weight of the water, depending on the salinity, the floating increases, but also it moves water masses with different weights. And all this circulation, which is induced by the salinity, has an important role in distributing nutrients for sea life and also for regulating the heat and climate, because it's like in your engine, when the water circulates to keep it cooler.
So at 6:20, we're talking with Marco Bordieri from the Sydney Underwater Gazette. Marine life. I don't cope well with lots of salt, particularly when it hits me in the face as a wave. How does marine life cope?
Well, they've adapted. So in different places where there is mixed fresh water with seawater or other places where the salinity is higher, they've adapted, and their comfort zone is within a specific range. The problem is when the salinity changes. In that case, the fish may die or may be displaced.
Well, it sounds like we've got a wonderful system that's operating over $4 billion years, not dollars, but years, and then humans come along, Marco.
Yeah, human activities, with the industrialization, especially in the last century, has produced industrial runoff, agriculture, climate change, and we are altering the ocean salinity. And the biggest element is the pollution from land-based sources that introduce nutrients and contaminants into the water, and that disrupt the natural salinity gradients. And for example, the phenomena like the algae bloom, which is the formation of a layer of algae that feeds on those contaminants, forms a curtain that blocks the sunlight to the underlying ecosystem. It's like to turn the light off on some part of the ocean, and that clearly has an impact on sea life.
But then salt is also where we get the word salary from.
Exactly. So back in the good old days of the Roman Empire, salt was expensive, but was also needed for a number of uses. For example, cooking, food preservation, medical purposes. It was very valuable, but to the point that it was even used as a currency. So in Italy, back to our Italian classes, we still use the word saldare, which means paying off, and literally stands for to give salt. And as you mentioned, the word salary comes from the Latin salarium, and it means the allowance of salt. So you can see how it all makes sense.
It all is the circle of life. If I do want to go underwater this weekend, what's it going to be like?
I would say if you are awake because you're listening to the radio, probably is a good time of the day to go swimming, because after 9, 10, there would be a stronger wind, a little bit as well, disrupting the swimming experience. Otherwise, tomorrow is a good day for swimming. So visibility is being reported to be like 6-8 meters, so pretty good. Temperature is as warm as it gets. They've been reported up to 24 degrees,
Whoa.
which is the top of the year.
Yeah.
So definitely early morning today or anytime tomorrow looks very good.
And make sure you take photos and post them on the Sydney Underwater Gazette Facebook page, because that allows me to get under the water without getting wet. Marco Bordieri, ci vediamo, ragazzi.
Grazie Simon, have a good day.